You're exhausted. Dear nuts. I have so many questions I've always wanted to ask for you, and it's been a long time since we've had just an hour to spend together. So I hope you're ready to get into it.
I am. Totally. Bring it on.
In a recent interview with Jack Phillips, you were speaking about your group fitness origin, and you mentioned in graduate school was where body pump came to your life and group fitness came to your life.
Yes.
And I pinpoint that as your group fitness origin. If we go back even further down to little Jinger, I'm really curious to know, what was your relationship with movement as a young person?
I love this question. It is definitely something I end up thinking about and who I am today. And I started as a swimmer.
Oh.
I love being outside. And summer swim league as a child was one of my best memories and something I was involved with either as a swimmer and then through high school as a coach through my 30s. I didn't stop doing summer league swim team. It's an amazing experience, similar to what makes group fitness so special. Summer Swim League is 2.5 months, every single level and ability that you can imagine. You're outdoors early in the morning. For the older kids, it's 5:30 or 6 a.m.
Yeah.
And it's really just a focus on being your best self and enjoying the moment with others in the summer. So it's not cutthroat. It's not about medals. It's about doing your best, making new friends, enjoying crazy summer activities and being goofy at slumber parties at the pool. But that's really kind of my first introduction, which is funny now looking back on it, because what I loved about it was the community aspect. It was everyone who enjoyed one thing and realized that there were so many different types of people and persons that you would love that were different than you, but you had this thing in common.
Oh, Ginger, you're taking me back. I'm thinking about the summertime swim pool. Like, my sister was a swimmer. I didn't do the swim team, but I went to all the meets and stuff. And so I just remember Macy Gray pumping on the pool speaker in 2000.
Remember the enthusiasm from your swim mates when you were, especially relays. I mean, relays would have like 20 people behind the block to cheer you on in those last 5 meters, no matter what swimmer or number you were in the relay. Like, just the excitement of that. Of course, you also think about sunscreen. You think about those weird pool bathrooms that you spent way too much time in.
The weird flooring too, so that it doesn't get so wet. It's such a weird,
slimy, like going on there. I'm glad you got a taste of it in life, and that's something that I've recommended to so many of my close friends with children, is just get them in summer swim team. It's a thing.
There's something about being in the water as a kid that is so cool and such a privilege, and I'm so thankful for those moments as a kid, because it was one of the first times, apart from like recess, where you are enjoying movement in a way that's not structured. Like, you're just, other than the lifeguard saying, get out of the pool for 10 minutes because it's adult swim time.
My gosh, wasn't that like those were the worst words you could ever hear? Adult swim, you're like,
oh, gosh, I know. When the whistle blew and you were like in the middle of the pool too, and you took as much time as possible to get to the end. And it's, in retrospect, it's this 15-year-old. Is there a specific achievement in that part of your swim career that really stands out to you for yourself, like a personal best or a moment that you did something that surprised you?
I think really it is when I realized I would gravitate to the tougher road. In swimming is butterfly, and it's the long distance fly event. So if you're only 9 or 10, it's 2 lengths, which is your longest fly. Once you get into high school and college, then you get into a 100 or 200 meter fly, which I was embracing that type of event, as well as the individual medley, the IM, a little bit of everything. So it's also when I probably realized I wasn't the fastest. I could hold on in endurance, but I was definitely wanted to do something a little bit crazy hard and show that I'll finish.
What wisdom from a young person, like in that sense, right? Like in thinking about challenges and how like maybe I'm not the best at something, but I'm still gonna do it or still try it. That speaks to the character I already know of you as an adult, which is so cool to think back to what you were like as a kid. If you think back to when you were 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, that vibrancy, that personality, what still shines through in the work and the person you are today?
For sure, it's the work ethic and maybe just how I feel calm and centered is a little bit with consistency and routine with a little bit of spice, I say. Like, for the most part, I love the fact I run every morning right when I wake up, 6 days a week, not 7. And I do body pump 3 times a week. And I do great. Like, I have these things that are weekly, make me feel grounded no matter what's going on. And that is really my physical activity. And it's almost a form of meditation in a way. It's just to know I've got those things that make me feel so good. Then I like just a little bit of being spontaneous and trying new things and being adventurous. But I think what still comes through is just, I'm still going type of mentality. Like getting a Ph.D. is not really, it's not the smartest person. It is the person who can stay the course.
Oh, yes. I'm sure many listening can attest to that. Yeah, just because of the paper you have next to your name, sometimes it is, and it's not quite a clear determiner of intelligence or even just life skills.
Exactly. My first entry into Les Mills was really because I was a triathlete and I was using body pump as my cross training and as my injury prevention, really, which it did wonders for. The way I got into triathlon was I was actually a participant in a research study my summer between freshman and sophomore year of college. And this is going to date me a bit, but at that time, women did not weight train when I was my teens. That just, you didn't see women in the weight room. So the study was actually looking at women who did cardio and combine it with strength training, a very specific strength training program. It was high rep, low weight, but not a body pump specific. Like we did body parts different days. And then you maintained your cardio. So we did things like we did regular running and hiking, but we also did running the steps like at an amphitheater locally and indoor cycling classes. And at the end of the study, which was the duration of the summer, it was 12 weeks, the principal investigator said to me almost exactly what I've been describing myself as. He said, you know, we're not the best at anything that we did. You always tried hard and you were always like able to finish the task at hand. I think you should give triathlon a shot. And that is literally what that next month, because I felt like I'd built up the fitness in that study, I did a sprint triathlon and was like, oh, this is so fun.
Jinger, these are moments where I wish we were in person because I have goosebumps actually listening to you talk about that, because just knowing the work you do now, like just knowing that you were part of one of those origin studies of like where the stuff you do today, like it's almost connecting the dots for me of like, wow.
Isn't it crazy? Yeah.
It's like, oh, that just hits me in my heart. That makes me so happy.
Oh, yay. It's just weird.
I love that. And I love too just like the suggestion of like oh, well, you're not the best at everything, like you're not, you know, the gold medalist here, but triathlons, like it actually makes a lot of sense because then you have the opportunity to excel in like multimodal versus just the singular, like I'm working on like a 400 or I'm working on like a mile if I'm distance running.
Exactly.
And I love to kind of like that you speak back to this in like the group effect and where like the collectiveness of working out together, being on a team kind of makes a big difference.
Huge.
As a child, as a teenager, did you have a concept of group fitness apart from team sports?
Would say not as much. I mean, the only other thing that gives me that feeling that I had before college was literally high school dances. And it was part of the success of the Les Mills concept, which is moving together with music. That group dynamic was so unique. Because those were the first times you really did that, right? Was a high school gymnasium where the lights are down a little bit and no one's afraid to just move to the music. That might be my best example, other than maybe some like dance classes as a kid that was essentially group fitness in themselves too.
And that's a great connection. I wouldn't have made that one naturally of high school prom or high school dances, because it is true. It's like you all have the same medium that you're moving to, and it's like a carefree experience, but it is equally as probably a little more sweaty sometimes with the disgustingly thick fabric of those prom jackets.
Gosh, what were we thinking? Yeah, it's literally the opposite of today's athletic wear.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe New Balance can work on some prom clothes or something.
Really, really helpful. I will get on that.
As of December 2023, so ResearchGate has you registered with 68 publications, 16,960 views on those publications, and then 1,777 citations. So this is just a drop in the bucket of the immeasurable experience and contributions to the field of fitness that we have seen from you and will continue to see from you. Within this logical and objective perspective, where do you balance this with that subjective, messy, human part of fitness, of describing what people do?
That is a question I literally think about almost every day, because it is exactly that. Human research is messy. It is unpredictable, unreliable, inconsistent, because we are such individuals where one day can differ so much from another. So you do have to take that with a grain of salt. And I think my optimal mentality about it is just try to find those tricks and tips that will work for the majority, and continue to keep that in mind, and continue to find those things that stick out that seem to be incredibly important for 90% of us. Focus on those and see how they can make a positive impact on individuals' fitness journey and their routine. Really, everything is a case study. If you wanted to maximize for you, it's not really reading a bunch of scientific publications, it's getting a individual coach. The other thing I think what Les Mills does so incredibly well is have those modifications, have the variety that they are catering more to the masses, which is why I'm so drawn to them too. The impact that they can make with their formats and their variety and their ability to modify for different ends of the spectrum is really like none other.
To ultimately tell the story to folks who are not academics and those who will really reap the benefits, whether it's instructors, whether it's stakeholders with the company, whether it's just those that are curious in the exercise science community. It's like, how do you tell that story in an objective way with the ability to share that messiness of the human connection and all of the outliers that come with that?
Exactly. And you can totally learn from the outliers too. And then it's those messages that when they do come to the surface, you realize how impactful they must be, because you are testing these incredible beings that are so unique and diverse in themselves, that if the same thing is coming out, or you're seeing this much improvement from a particular method, then you're onto something.
And dear listener, go check out Jinger's LinkedIn, because you can read all of the beautiful and exciting adventures she's been on in her academic career. But I'm really excited to get into more of the things you've done in that career and some of the more unspoken, unwritten things that have happened that are so interesting, I imagine.
In graduate school in Boulder, Colorado is when I started doing body pump. A housemate of mine who was not necessarily a lover of fitness introduced me to it. And I thought, if she likes it and is doing it, it's got to be something amazing. As you know. So at that time, I'm getting my Ph.D. So I'm constantly thinking about the biomechanics of movement. I was looking at very specific things with the knee and the ankle and how we move, and understanding like how to collect it with these high-speed cameras and muscle activity and all that. And something just felt a teeny bit off about one thing in body pump, which is a forward stepping lunge. As I would look at a group fitness environment, it's just such a complex move to get people to do correctly, especially with a group on a particular cadence. So I had started using the Les Mills blah of asking them if I could talk to somebody about lunges. And I always got a nice letter back, but never really anyone willing to hear about it. And so years later, I got certified in body pump. Then 2 years after that, I went to an AIM-1, so one of those advanced instructor modules, and Sheldon McBee was the instructor, which, I mean, talk about lottery. He is the most motivating, dynamic, knowledgeable. He himself has his master's degree in exercise science. And I was just like in awe with him. So I worked up the courage at the end of the AIM to talk to him about the lunges. So he had just come back from New Zealand, maybe 2 weeks or so ago. So it was very fresh, and he had met Bryce. And he said, after he listened to my rationale and realized how much I love the program, I wasn't being negative. I was just wanting to provide some feedback about it. He said, I'm going to give you Bryce Hastings, who's the scientific director, and he's a physical therapist, his name. So I contacted Bryce, and it was literally hours later that I heard back. Wow. I sent him graphs, I sent him data, I sent him some suggestions of what I thought, which was simple, just make it a backward step, or keep it static. And he was so open, so welcoming, so wanting to understand the actual schematics and kinetics of the movement that he invited me to meet him in Atlanta, where he would be for one of the Les Mills instructor summits. So that is where I met him and Jackie Mills. And by the way, when I first met her, I literally had a physical response where I thought I was going to pass out.
I cannot imagine after just, you send this letter, you talk to one person, and then all of a sudden you're meeting Jackie Mills.
Yeah, it was like, I don't know where I am, but just end it now because I'm in it. It was hours long meeting. Yes, speaking about the strategic changes that could be made in the lunge track that were pretty minor, but as a group, I think made a big difference. And then that was also the origination of what is now Les Mills Core.